So after a busy week on the clay courts this week with multiple tournaments all around Europe being played, we had some interesting winners and we also had some changes to the rankings as well ahead of the Madrid Open. Let's go have a look at though who won last week because we had a lot of tournaments being played. Starting on the WTA side of things, and in Roeun we had Svitolina winning the title against Danilovic 6-4, 7-6, and she got a nice boost in the rankings. And there was a 500 event in Stuttgart where Ostapenko took out Sabalenka in the final 6-4, 6-1 to lift the biggest trophy on a clay court since the French Open back in 2017. So huge week for Penko, of course beat Swiatek as well, and also got a boost in the rankings. Over on the men's side of things, we had two 500 events. The first one being in Barcelona with Rune taking out Alcaraz in the final 7-6, 6-2, and he got a nice boost in the rankings back into the top 10. And Zverev, he won over in Munich 6-2, 6-4 against Shelton, and he also got a bit of a boost in the rankings, which we'll talk about in a second. Players that went up in the rankings outside the top 10 this week, starting with Ostapenko, she goes up to number 18 in the world, which is 6 spots higher than last week. Of course, after winning in Stuttgart. Danilovic, she goes to a career high 34 in the world, 5 spots higher than last week after making the final of Roeun. And Marijan, he goes up 19 spots to number 58 in the world after having a good run in Munich. So some big names there, or some names that we know on the clay doing some damage. Players that went down in the rankings, Kostyuk, she went down to 36 in the world, 11 spots lower than last week after failing to defend the points she made at Stuttgart from the final last year. Tsitsipas, he drops down 2 spots to number 18 in the world. And Struff, he goes down 28 spots to number 79 in the world. So some players there that just couldn't do what they did last year in the big tournaments on clay, dropping down the ranks. All right, let's have a look at the players on the WTA side, starting with Sabalenka at the top. No change. She still stays at number 1 and is really far ahead of Swiatek, who is at number 2. Pegula at 3 and Gauff at 4. Keys at 5 and Paolini at 6. Andreeva at 7. Zhang at 8. Badosa at 9. But we did have a change on the bottom with Navarro getting back into the top 10, pushing Raducanu out of the top 10, mainly due to Raducanu not playing Stuttgart and losing all their points. So the only change this week, but of course with Madrid next week, expect more changes. Going to the race of the finals, and things are looking a little bit interesting, but no changes up the top with Sabalenka at 1 and Keys at 2. Andreeva at 3 and Swiatek at 4. Pegula at 5 and Anisimova at 6. But there was a change on the bottom part with Towson going down 2 spots to number 9, making way for Navarro to go up to number 7. Alexandrova gets back into the top 10 at number 8 after having a really good week in Stuttgart. As mentioned, Towson at 9. Raducanu at 10. She goes down 1 spot, kicking Badosa out of the top 10 completely from the race of the finals. So, again, massive points on the line coming up over the next few weeks in Madrid and Rome, so expect some big changes like we have been seeing on the WTA race of the finals. Over on the men's side of things, we had no change at the top with Sinner at number 1, but Zverev, he overtakes Alcaraz and gets back to that number 2 spot after losing it after Monte Carlo. So Zverev sneaks over the top of Alcaraz in the rankings, with Alcaraz dropping down number 3. Fritz stays at 4 with Djokovic at 5 and Draper at 6. Diminor at 7 with Rublev at 8. But Holger Rune, he gets back into the top 10, 4 spots higher than last week after winning in Barcelona. He's at number 9, pushing Medvedev down to number 10, and Casper Ruud drops out of the top 10 completely after losing a lot of points from Barcelona last year. So Rune is back after one of the biggest titles in recent times for him, and ahead of Madrid, it's going to look really interesting to see how these guys go, because some of these players really need to defend points next week. Over to the race of the finals, and there was no change at the top with Alcaraz at 1, but Zverev, he finally overtakes Sinner, who has been sitting around the top spot since the Australian Open. So Alcaraz and Zverev are now ahead of Sinner, with Sinner's return, of course, being in Rome in a week or 2. Draper, he stays at number 4, but we did have a bit of a change in the middle and down the bottom as well, with Diminor going up to number 5. Djokovic goes down to number 6. Rune, after winning 500 points, jumps up to number 7, which is 8 spots higher than last week. Shelton also got a bit of a boost, going up 2 spots into number 8. Menzik drops down to number 9, Fokina drops down to number 10, and Auger-Aliassime drops out of the top 10 completely. So the race of the finals is starting to shape up a little bit, and it's looking pretty interesting. And of course, just like the ladies, there's 1,000 points on the line next week in Madrid and also 1,000 points in Rome. So we should be seeing a lot more changes over the next couple of weeks. So there it is. They are the rankings for this week, and some really interesting changes. The clay court season has thrown up a few upsets. I mean, Rune and also Ostapenko winning this week was maybe a little bit unexpected, considering that they hadn't been playing super good over the last couple of weeks, and also beating the players that they beat to make those finals and win those titles and get those points. You know, it's only going to be a matter of time if Penko keeps doing this, that she's going to be back in the top 10, right? But let me know in the comments below, what's been the biggest thing for you this week? Of course, there was so much going on all at the same time. So next week, we're just going to be in Madrid for 2 weeks. We're going to focus on it. And the ranking show the next time around will be after Madrid. So next week, There'll be no rankings show, but after Madrid, once we get the points all settled and we know what the rankings look like, we'll change it again. But there it is, the rankings after a hectic week of tennis, making it look a little bit interesting.